To avoid a boring start, let's try this. From the workshop, it's the Dawn Show, starring Dawn. Today, Dawn's special guests are paint, more paint, and even more paint. And special guest star, spilled paint. We'll talk about module expansion. We'll talk about painting the mountain. We'll talk about the burger place. We'll talk about a lot of stuff to include backgrounds. But first, I have to say this. You're going to see Dawn bring this mountain to life just with paint and his skill. If we fast forward to the end of the video, I must say his mountain looks so lifelike, it almost looks like nature itself. Oh wait, it is nature itself. Now without further ado, let's get this thing started.
We're back. It's a little quieter today. The sun is shining. It's been about 2, 3, 4 days. It's a Tuesday. And this is the mountain that we made. We're going to paint this today. We made this little hump here. And one thing I noticed when I looked at this, when we were all done, is that it's kind of out of balance here. We need some balance. And I also kind of put a little more structure into what do we want this to look like now that we're putting some things on here. So I talked about a road going up into the valley, maybe a creek by it. We talked about a waterfalls. The inspiration, if you've seen, the Woodland Scenics has a motor court, which would fit in here nicely. And of course I talked about, I've named it Bud's Burgers. Half-pound burgers are going to be right there. And a little road maybe going up to Mom and Pa Kettles. And some other things that we talked about this creek. So we're doing that, and I said, this is kind of out of balance, and I'll go over that a little bit later. I think what we ought to do, I'll come back into the cue here, is maybe what we ought to do is maybe put a little bit of a mountain here as you leave the area, and we'll cut this out, and maybe cut this around here, and maybe an elf will do that, and we get down here to an open spot, to maybe a wall, because I'd like to show a wall. You can start to see, well, how that would look there, you know. We got a little background as we'll have this here, and another mountain like we've made, you know, so you can start to visualize how this works. And so this starts to transform as you start to make stuff. That's my point that I've always seen doing on my home layout and doing some of these modules that I've rehabbed. So, and I think that's the fun part. You don't realize what creativity you have until you get into it and force yourself to and learn. You know, as I said before, learn at Rail Tales and those kinds of things. So we're going to do that. Let's start to paint. I did a little bit of I've got some old material here. As you can see, I didn't get my artist hat, and I do have one. But a good old piece of 3-inch foam for a palette. And whoa, not that way, but see, there's paint on the floor that we won't be able to use.
So that's pretty much gone now?
Gone now. So what we're going to be doing is really kind of mixing colors, and it's going to be a wet on wet approach. And before I spill everything else, maybe I'll just mix it over here and our producer can swing the camera around. So I've got some of, oh, I got a leaky Solo cup. That's not good. You lose beer that way. So I have some brushes. I'm not going to use them all, but I have some different brushes. That's for actually Unmighty brushes. Unmighty brush to do a lot of stuff, but maybe some stuff here, because we're going to use our old 99-cent brushes to hog water on, and you can go to Lowe's and get these for a little nothing, throw them away. These are actually, I could probably stand to get some new ones. So I'm going to use, and we're going to blend, the other thing about this, we're going to blend colors. So this is Woodland Scenics, raw umber, burnt umber, some black and some white. And then these are Vallejo. You'll see those in hobby stores, airbrush paints and everything else. These are a little stronger, what's the right word? More concentrated color. So I can either highlight with them or maybe add them to a little white to get a different color. So I brought some things that can make blues and greens. And then use those. Maybe I'll highlight to go over here on this waterfalls. I think the only thing we're going to do on the waterfalls today, because that's a whole nother subject, and actually you could do like I just did, go search it. And there's some nice YouTube videos on different effects of how to do it. And I think Doug's done some, and other people have done different kind of waterfall effects, and there's different ways to do it. So we'll do that on another time. But generally, what kind of color do we want on this? A brown hue or a gray hue, more of a limestone thing? Limestone is more jagged, so it's you can kind of mix, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a number of mixed colors, wet on wet, and it'll just be more natural. When you think about like up where I hunt in Harrisville, New York, there's great big granite outcrops, and you know those maybe have a red hue to it, but it's all kinds of different colors. There's moss on it. There's, as I said, everything in nature is random, and that's kind of what we're going to do. So let's start. There's no wrong answer, right answer. Let's put some paint on the palette, and we'll mix them up. We'll probably generally use a lot more white, very little black. Of course, I could probably use that white that's on the floor, but we'll see if I run out. We'll put the little black over here, because we'll be making gray with that, gray and white. What did I do? Raw umber. What's burnt umber? It looks a little more browny. And maybe we want, yeah, it's a little more browny. Sometimes, if I know I'm going to put grass on a spot, which we may on that little low one, right? You got low stuff, there's weeds and grass growing. And I'm going to put a little bit of green there, because I may want to highlight that. And I'm going to put a little, because I've used this before, this is more concentrated brown, and I may put some streaks or something with that. So we're going to do that. And that should be good enough. I'm going to use a lot more of this. Whoop, yep, right color down. Very good. And we're going to start to mix that. And one important thing is water, because we're going to clean a brush, and I'm going to get some little dabbing stuff here to dry my brush. And I'm going to come over here. Let's not get too excited here. I got one brush in there. And I got that. You know what else? And I don't want to do too much. This is dry and pretty damp. And let me just start to paint that. What I was thinking about is our little water sprayer. Do I need to dampen it to let things flow? So I'm going to come around the back, and we're going to start on this side. And I'm thinking, based on my other layout, not a brown mountain, but not a real light brown mountain. But I'm thinking of a brown hue, and we can play with other looks. In fact, highlight some other looks there. So one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a little bit of this white and make a little gray. But then I'm also, when I think about highlights, I got some dark spaces here, you know. So, you know, I'm going to maybe even take a little black. Oh, maybe, you know, we'll even say, oh, what's going on? Don't worry about it. We got some highlights here and some here. And because if you say, man, I don't like that, which I did on my wall on my layout, it was more brown. It was so brown it was ugly, so I repainted it all, made it a gray limestone rock. So I got some highlights here to play with. And you're mixing to try to get the hue there. Bring a little more brown in. And anatomically, probably not correct. But I'm going to do that. And then, you know, let's look. Now, see what happens when I take just a little bit of the raw brown on there. So you can do different things. And add color, and it's going to have different hues. We're going to keep mixing. Bringing more paint in, hope it doesn't fall on the floor. And I talked about wet on wet, right? So I can bring a little black on here too. I'm doing a big space, so I think maybe what I would do is get some color on all of it, and then I can go back and highlight it.
So when you say wet on wet, does that kind of mean you can blend as you go on the fly?
Yep, that's exactly what I mean. You just keep going, a little bit lighter. I guess the biggest thing is, the good thing you got little nooks and crannies here from the Sculptamold to make shape and stuff. The bad thing is when you're painting, that's a little annoying. And then I'm running out of brown, so I got to add some more. Whoa, let's use this. Oh, the brown ran into my green. That's not good. Don't waste the paint. I may have some green top on here, and I'll hit it with some brown later. I need using up my brown a lot, so we'll add some more. The real finish here starts when you can start to highlight other colors on. So I got to get these white spots filled in. Even mixing the colors are not going to be exactly right. They don't have to be, because everything in nature is random. And we will be highlighting some of this stuff later. Can't paint. You can't paint with a dry brush. And figured out what color that behind the waterfalls is going to look like. I've been thinking about it. It's going to be dark, I'm sure. You could put a little blue hue to it. I assume dark blue. See when I say wet on wet. Let's put that on lighter. See how that'll go, and you can lighten things up afterwards, and you can darken it up afterwards. So let's take a peek, see what holes we want to fill. The little indentations that are white getting filled. I'm trying to pop this in here. I guess that's true when you're doing our other job, when we had the wet brush and patting it around, is just work a little bit more to keep it rough the way you want it, but you can minimize these or just take time painting them. We're going to come back on that. We're all going to experiment and see what we want to do with a waterfall. So now let's go back to the black. Let's put some, now that it's wet, look how it, oh, there's spooks over there. Must be a big mouse. Thought I caught them all. Maybe in here. And again, if I think I got too much, don't worry about it. You got more paint. So I'm going to add some more burnt umber. It's kind of blending. That's the wet on wet part. Maybe a little more brown on top of my black. So we have some shadow. Let's take this real dark brown, see what happens. Where we put the dark highlight, I'll just touch it with a little umber. So I don't have brush streaks, but I have color. You can see that. See, so down here. So what do you think, Mr. Producer?
It's coming right along, although I kind of like the white better. Can you take it all back to white?
I can. I do have white paint.
Well, I guess just leave it like it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As you were.
It's looking good. It's coming to life.
Most likely it'll be dirt. I was saying before, one of the things I might do with this, just to be different, and maybe it won't work, but I've seen some of the Boy Scout modules up in Woodbridge, right? So they have their mountains. When you look across out in the mountains here, you see just clumps. And if you drive up the road, and after actually having done this, you drive up 81 or wherever you're going in the mountains, and you look at what the trees look like and how you'd paint them. And of course, you look in, it's all black because it's shadow. And then so when you're painting it, you got to come out, go deep, and then come back out. So you think of black and then little brighter greens. If you're trying to paint autumn, then some yellows and stuff. And it's the same thing here as you look at clumps of trees far away in this standby. When you look at this, right, it's clumps. And I think that's what the Boy Scouts did. They take that shrub color, the shrub stuff, and make little clumps. And I would think I could hot glue it on there and you could make a whole thing of trees. I don't know whether they were all in on that and had a great big mess of trying to do part of this. It might look dorky. So I wasn't thinking of dorky. All right, so let's keep going here while we got, you know what? Let's do a little trick here. Maybe we just need a little, because I've been talking. We can do that, no hurt.
So what's the water spray gonna do?
Just get a little wet so I can move the paint, because I've done this a bit ago. Might be just an effect. People say, boy, he really knows what he's doing, when he really doesn't. So it looked good anyway.
It did look like you really had, some thought into it.
Yeah, I sort of did. A little thought. Actually, that green, when you blend that green in, it wasn't too bad. It just leaves a little something on there. Just put a little. This is really getting watered down, so it's probably what I really want. Just a touch. A hue of green. Now we better start working on what color waterfall we want. That's good. That'll be the scary part. Just saying.
Don't be afraid. Go boldly forward.
Okay. Go where no man has gone before. I kind of like that black look. I'm going to play with that just a little bit. Maybe we'll put a little more here. Shadow. Shadow. I'll get rid of the brush strokes. Not always. You may want a brush stroke or two. There's that little green I put on.
You know, standing back looking, it's actually kind of cool. I can see the different colors that were blended in.
Yeah.
When you were doing it step by step, it wasn't so obvious, but now looking back, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah. It's a great technique.
Yeah, speaking of Woodland Scenic, is that your go-to place for paint?
Well, they carry it. It's what that and a Vallejo. That's what Rail Tales had. And there's another Aces. There's another one that I use in my airbrush, and I have an airbrush. I figured he had a little class on that, and that's been kind of handy. I haven't done it on this. You could on the demonstration I saw on YouTube, blending water in the shoreline. You got to look underneath too, especially if you're a little person looking at our layout. Now I'm gonna, after I get this done, I'll probably go back and do a little highlighting again, see if I've screwed up anything. This is starting to look cool, ain't it?
Yeah.
It's getting darker, I guess.
Getting a little darker, the shadows are forming.
I was thinking of a lighter mountain, but I guess it's going to be a darker mountain, so. I guess you can change your color while you're dabbing, and you're actually accomplishing the same thing. Getting a little different colors, lining it in. Actually, sometimes I surprise myself. But to you, if you've never done it, just do it. I lost my line the last time. You know, I was trying to figure out where does the water come from. Well, Moses got water to come out of a rock. I guess we can too. Maybe we'll just, like I said, maybe put a little hint of something to look like it came from somewhere, but I'm not sure yet. Come back and see what kind of a background color is an initial step on the waterfall that we're going to want to use. All right, let's step back and look at this puppy. Okay. You can say, well, I don't know, do I need something there or not? Well, let's play around, I don't know. Do you like the lighter or the, I don't know if I like the lighter. Well, if I don't like it, I'll put a little bit darker on there. Or I have to feather that in. I'm not going to get all the white spots, I guess. I can though. If I put paint on the brush, I can. Before we get too much farther, I'm just going to demonstrate. Let's do some outcrop stuff. I have black. I'm going to make some gray. Get the water out. You know, so you can kind of make that, this is going to make that look goofy. And I'll probably just paint over it. That's how you would do that. And take the little brush. And you can see it on my layout, I have just kind of dirt and ground and then it sticks out, which I just personally like that feature of a limestone outcrop. Roll that around. Whoops. See?
Is that a good oops?
Yeah, that was a bad one. Probably got to change my Moana. I meant to have a little brown on the bottom, but since I got a lot of brown.
So, how to erase an oops. Well, as Don breaks out his eraser, I hope you're enjoying this. It is kind of fascinating to watch this thing come to life from a big glob of white.
One effect I want to show you, I'm going to take a new paper towel and I'm going to get it wet. And this is what you do. I'm squishing it out so it's damp.
Is squishing a technical term?
Squishing, yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of damp. I don't want too much water on there. I'm just lightly doing that. So you got some highlights. Maybe. I'm not doing it too much yet. Whoops, there's a little white spot there. I don't want to do too much. If you like, if you don't like that effect. Just kind of gets like a worn out you know, rock that's kind of worn out and sun bleached.
Yeah, it's like you're exposing more of the rocks outcroppings.
Yeah. Little worn spots. I'm about done. You gotta know when to stop. I really liked it.
Didn't you say that like 10 minutes ago?
Yeah, I did. Okay, I'm done. How about the top, Ball Mountain?
Step away from the mountain.
Well, that's pretty cool. At least in my opinion.
I think it
It's
looks
a dark
good.
one.
Yeah.
So let's just finish up this puppy.
All those little touches really add to the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's a good point. It adds to all the you're adding randomness and color, and you can just keep going. And then, like I say, if you go too far, paint over it. You'll never be wrong, and it's your layout. So let's. We got some green paint here, and I may go back over it because we'll probably have on a lower thing like this grass and weeds and maybe a tree, a little tree. Get a base color. Brown is good because dirt's brown, and then if you got grass over it, it should look like dirt behind it, so it should save you something or other. Probably soot from those steam locomotives that go by. It's just a base color because we might sprinkle stuff on there and we'll have a little green underneath. Looks awful dark, doesn't it? Could be a dirty mountain. Let's put some more brown on that green. I got a lot of paint on this now. You'll see, you can see the difference. I gotta get some paint off this brush. Probably could get a new paper towel. Let's maybe dry this out. Paper towel effect. Just dragging that over because the paint's wetter and hadn't dried. See that? This is a worn out. Maybe that's why it's so small, because it's worn out. Any old white spots we gotta cover yet, right there. Just thought about that gray outcropping. I kind of made another little one here. And I'm just gonna kind of show it. To give the mountain a little balance, if not anything. Kind of like I was explaining before. And these a little more dark. And I can just mix it right on the stone. And then we will highlight that. And then we will blend it in. I just want a couple of bristles. That's enough bristles. Clean my brush. Okay, so we were talking about, I'm going to do more research on making falls, but we can see what color, kind of color you could mix there. So you want a blue tint, a green, I don't know whether purple will work. Well, not purple, but as like a blender. I can't think that would be looking very good. It's green. I got to have something to darken it. Maybe I can do it with black. So let's see what that is. That's definitely too bright. I'm going to put some purple. I already shook these up earlier. I don't know if that doesn't seem like that's going to do much. And I'll just put some of this blue. Obviously I must have used this a lot somewhere because I don't have much left. That's too bluey. To me, I'm thinking of a dark, rusty, you know, if you're walking in the river with a shallow river with the rocks. But no time like the present. I don't know if I got enough paint. And I'm probably going to want a little black, some white, and maybe some gray. Let's see what that is. See, that's going to be dark, so let's get a lot of black in there. Maybe some brown. See what kind of a gook we can make. Ah, we're kind of getting there. Don't need a lot of color. That's kind of looking interesting. I want to say that it's water, but not really express that it's water. See what happens. So we had brown, we had a little bit of the green, don't need much. Had black, which I could probably get more of. feather it. And if we got to come back and feather back on the brown, we can do that. Let's get this filled. Actually, I can see some streaky black highlights under the lip here. So let's get this done first, and we'll finish our green stuff. We might have to trim in here and make a nice cut. I don't know what that. This is goofy. Watch this. Well, we'll debate that. It's kind of indicating that there's water coming from a high place. Right, Mr. Producer?
Yep. Could be a little stream, or it could have even come from an underground stream.
Hey, here's another idea.
Or maybe both. Or maybe neither. Maybe it just happened.
Maybe if I don't know if I got enough stuff here. What does this do?
A little raging rapid action.
Yeah. Look at there. I'm a little fresh white. There. Huh. Like I say, I never did this before. You never did too. Don't be scared. And I'm almost to the point to leave it alone. And I almost did too much, I think. Maybe not. All right, so let me finish up all the white stuff. I think I'll finish that with brown because the waterfall isn't going to go over that far. Well, this is going to be interesting. This might be pretty far out. We're not sure. Light, 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 light. Trying to get a few bristles on it on a dry brush.
So I have to ask, so the water is flowing down, but your paintbrush is flowing up. So what's with that?
I don't know. I got more room for the up part.
Okay, yeah, I thought I'm sure you had a reason.
Easier?
So there's easier. Okay, that works.
Easier. I think that's good.
Well, after claiming to be done several times, he now claims he is done. Let's just see if he is.
You never stop. And paint over paint. All right, now I'm definitely stopping. I think I'm done. Almost.
Does your paintbrush think it's done?
Yeah, it's done.
Oh, it's okay.
So, we'll clean that off. Let me just take these paints off and let's just think about what we're going to do. Whoa, next time. So, what we've done, we had our mountain we made last time. We took different colored paints to your liking. It ended up being more dark than I thought I was going to start with, but I like it. And we just kept adding color and highlights, and you saw me go over different things, change things. You can't go wrong, and your eye is just going to put together different stuff. Even that waterfall, even if I did nothing else, that's sort of cool. I'm impressed with myself. And then, so that's what we did. Now, again, as I looked at this after our first session, I said, it looks unbalanced. So again, let's do what we thought we were going to do here. And then I'm going to hold this up, and let's start visualizing what we wanted. And I also told you that, oh, look at that. We could have a mountain on the other side.
Free one.
Free one. So I said, I kind of looked at what we did last time, and as we started this video, I showed you maybe what I was thinking we were doing. So I'm going to maybe do something like that. Maybe get a couple more ribs. Probably have to go down and buy some more shaper sheet. And then I'll do exactly what we did before. And then I also thought, because it will have kind of a little space, I may make it a little bit smaller because you got to have a parking lot. You got Bud's Burgers here. We got our Woodland Scenics Auto Court. We got a road. And then this kind of a thing, you just can't have some mountains. Maybe we'll put another little one here going out. Maybe one here for structure. Maybe one there and there. And our creek, our roads. And it'll be starting to come together good. So I did this on my layout, so let's make a bridge. I could buy a bridge, but there's some other materials that I'm going to show you, just a little hint. This is Vallejo, thick mud. There's European mud. And they say, well, what are we going to put on top of this foam? This is what I use. It's like $16, but you spread it out with a palette knife and it's done. And you can put grass on it. You can do whatever you want. There's also cement that's got a little bit of sand in it. So what I did, we don't have to do this, but I just kind of cut this out and made like a concrete, it'll be a concrete bridge. And maybe I'll just, I don't know, maybe I'll move this road up a little bit. Maybe we have two concrete bridges here, one for the railroad here. Because we see a lot of concrete bridges. Maybe I'll square it up. You could get pretty and maybe make, in fact, I do have some brick stuff from left over. You can make it really kind of cool looking. Maybe for the road part, there's a little brick, little square thing. We could try it. So maybe, if you guys think that's all right, maybe we'll make a couple of these, maybe a little bit more to scale if a car's going by. Maybe I'll make it a little bit lower. Maybe the road a little bit lower. But we can do that. Now, I said with foam, you could start to cut stuff out, right? And then I could cut this out and then make some more Sculptamold and fill it in. But let's say we got a pool here. Another worry for their parents. While they're in having a cocktail, the kids are out in the creek. Hopefully they don't get drowned.
Getting in trouble till the train comes.
Yeah, then they can watch the train. So let's do this. See, now we got that going. So I could take my Sculptamold a little easy just to make a nice bottom here. Might work on that some. And I got little pebbles I picked up at the place where I buy dirt. And I was watching this video. I don't like the color because they're orangey. I can paint them gray. Person, what do we call it? Spectator that comes to our show. Say, look at that. They put a little crick right in between. Maybe. We'll see what that does. And then we can do the same thing here, right? So we've got this, and maybe we want to make it even lower. If I could take my jigsaw and jigsaw that out a little bit. And we'll fill all that in very nicely with Sculptamold, and it'll look all natural, and we'll end up painting it. It is a pretty dark mountain, isn't it? But it's our mountain, that's the way it is. So we'll do that. So next time, we're going to research waterfalls. We're going to maybe get some materials and try to make that effect. I'm going to add another mountain here and some little small things, get some more supplies. So we'll have our mountain stuff done, and we'll have our creek bed. Depends where you're from, if it's a creek or a creek. We'll have our creek bed done, and maybe some bridges. I think to keep it simple, we'll just make ourselves some concrete. Maybe I'll make these a different shape so they're one are squared off. Maybe the railroad will be squared off. They seem to have squared off color, squared off bridges. And we'll pick it up from there. So hope that you picked some things up of painting. Don't be scared. Get your palette, fill with paint, mix, and enjoy. See you later.
Well, sure hope you learned something today. Thought it was kind of interesting myself. If you didn't think it was that great, the good news is it's over now. Time to get on a train and get out of here.